So welcome back guys, and we have checked right now. Till now we have checked the post endpoint where we can save the employee object into the database. We can get all the employees. We can get employee by ID. We can delete employee by ID. Now here I will tell you two things. First of all, we will see the update employee. Okay, so for that we have to come inside the service, and here we have to write one method, that public. First of all, take a void and update employee. So to update the employee, what the things we will require? We have to tell that, for example, this is John at example.com, city is Pune, name is John, and surname is Jackson, for example. So here we have to pass, let's say, ID. So update the employee whose ID is 3, and what to update? Update his city, update email ID, update first name, update last name, like that, right? So we have to provide this from city to last name. This is the city to last name. This is the employee object. See, this is the employee class, and in this employee class we have a constructor that is a first name, last name, email ID, and city. So this is the employee object, and ID is not included in the employee object. Why ID is not included in the? Because it is auto-generated. The ID is auto-generated. That's why it is not included. So we have to pass the two things, that is ID and the employee object, right? So come to the employee service, and here we have to pass long ID comma employee object, right? Okay. So now if we will, okay, this is the employee repository instance. With the help of, what we will do, there is no any method like update. You can see, check, you can check update. Whatever the methods we have is count, delete all, delete, exist, find all, find by, get, notify, etc. save. So there is no any update method. So here, first of all, we will find the employee by ID, find by ID, and here we will provide the ID. So what it will return? It will return the employee object who is ID. Let's say we have given ID as a 3. So it will return as a John, right? This John object, entire object like city, email ID, first name and last name, right? And if we have given the ID as a 6, then what will happen? It will return null, right? So here we have to mention that or else null, right? Or else null. So we can return null. So now this will give us the employee object with the given ID. So here we will give as employee existing employee is equal to, right? Now what we have to check? We have to check either this existing employee is null, means not null, or not, means either it is null or not. So if it is not null, if it is null, then return null. Then what we can update? We can update nothing, because the employee does not exist. But if it exists, then we have to update the employee, right? So here we have to check if existing employee is not equal to null. If it is not null, then we have to perform some action, right? So what action we have to perform? We have to get this employee, existing employee, and we have to set the name, first name, last name, email ID and city. From here we can get that things like first name, last name, the updated first name, updated last name, that we can get from this employee, right? So this is the existing employee dot set first name. So what is the first name, updated first name, that we can get from this employee object? So employee dot get first name, right? Similarly, existing employee dot set last name, and that we can get from this employee object, employee dot get last name. Similarly, we will write for email ID and set email ID employee dot get email ID, and similarly set city employee dot get city, get city. Okay, so this is the employee object that we will get from the user, that is the client, from the Postman, right? So this will contain the first name, last name, email ID, get city. These are the updated things, and this is the existing employee's first name, last name that we are going to set. And finally, what we will do, we will return this existing employee. And the second thing what we have to do is, here what we will do, we have to employee repository dot save. We have to save this employee, right? So this existing employee, we have to save this existing employee, and we are going to return this. This is our if block, and if this existing employee is null, then return null, right? And here we have to change the return type as employee, right? So I will explain this method again. We don't have any update method, right? So we have to create the update method, that is long ID and employee. So first of all, we are checking using employee repository object that find by ID. We are finding the employee by ID. If it is a present, then it will be saved in this existing employee field, or else it will return null. Now we are checking either it is not null. If it is not null, then we are setting his first name, last name, email ID and city from the employee object, this employee object, and we have to save that employee object, existing employee. Once we have set the first name, last name, these are only the methods to set the first name, last name, email ID and city. Once all these things are set, we have to save that particular employee, existing employee, and automatically it will return. The save method, you can check, the save method will return the entity, right? It is accepting entity and it's returning that. So if it's not null, then we have to perform this operation, and if it is null, then simply we have to return null. This is the first thing. The second thing I have to tell you, that if you will check this employee repo, let's say dot, let's say this employee repository dot delete. Here you can check there is one method that delete employee means it is accepting the argument as an employee. See, delete employee. So this repo is having a method, delete method, which accepts entity object, right? You got it? So now my question is that in this here we have one delete method, right? Delete employee, delete. So delete by ID. Why we are using delete by ID method here instead of deleting the employee, right? In this controller also we are trying to delete the employee by using an ID, delete by ID. We are passing the ID and we are deleting that particular employee using an ID, right? And inside a repo, service, we are using delete by ID, and simply we are deleting the employee by ID. So why we are deleting the ID? Why we are not taking the employee object? So this is my question. So you just try that thing. Okay, I will tell you. See what happens if you will try to delete the employee using employee object. It will not delete. It will not delete. Even it will not throw any exception, and it will not even delete the object from the database. Why? Because without ID, see, this Spring can only delete these managed entities. What is meant by managed entities? Means it should have an idea that what is that employee, which is that employee. So that employee can be identified using the ID, particular ID. But so for that particular thing, if we will use delete employee using employee object instead of ID, then we have to uniquely identify that particular employee. For that purpose we have to send the ID also. Means from the Postman we are sending this JSON which contains first name, last name, email ID and city. We are not sending any ID over here. So if we are not sending any ID, how will the Spring knows that which employee to delete, right? So here we have to send the ID also, and from that ID we have to fetch that particular employee object, and then we can delete that employee object. But the problem here is we cannot send the ID from the Postman. Why? Because ID is auto generated, and that's why our employee entity constructor does not contain any ID, right? So it will not accept. If the constructor does not contain any ID field, it will not accept the ID, right? So there is only one option, that we have to delete the employee by ID. If you want to delete the employee by employee object, then we have to mention, we have to include this ID also inside this parameterized constructor, and we have to pass that thing from the Postman, and then we can delete. But eventually we have to find the employee by ID itself. But if we will include this ID every time, we have to pass the ID, right? But ID is auto generated, so that's why the recommended thing to delete the employee is delete by ID. Got it? Okay, so now we'll write the controller to update. So public employee update employee, we have to pass ID over here, and we have to pass which employee we want to update, and here we have service class object and update employee. We have to give ID and employee, right? We have to use the hook mapping here. Here this long ID. Now again this employee is, we are passing the employee as a body, so this is at request body annotation we have to use, right? This is request body employees at request body, and this ID we can pass as a query parameter or path variable. So I will select here as path variable, and that path variable is ID. Here also I have to mention that ID, right? So now it will take this ID from as a path variable. I will write another method also with a query parameter, update employee by query parameter. So here instead of path variable we have to use query parameter, sorry, request parameter, and here we have to give key as a ID, right? Here there is no need to use, because this is not the path variable, this is a query parameter. So here we have to use request param, and here we can mention, we can keep as it is, or we can mention a path like update by query, right? So now let's run this application. So run as SpringBoot app. So our Apache Tomcat has been started on 8080. So go here, sorry, go to the Postman and put. So here slash employee is a common, right? See, go to the controller, employee controller. This controller has request mapping as employee, so slash employee is common. Now we have to hit this update or put mapping endpoint. So for that the path is only slash ID, which ID we want to update. So path will be employee slash ID, let's say 1, right? So we'll check in the database. This is, sorry, there is no any ID present, 1. So we will update 2. Okay, so ID will be 2, and here we have to give a JSON body, right? So here we have to give as a first name as, let's say, Jay Kumar, comma, last name as, let's keep as it is, email ID as, let's say, jaykumar@gmail.com, and what else, city as, let's say Mumbai or Bangalore. Okay, sorry. So I just add double quotes over here. Right. So this is our, see, whatever controller class is accepting controller method ID and the request body, right? So ID we are passing from the path as a path variable, and this is the request JSON body we are passing over here. So initially for ID2 we have a city Pune, email ID is j@example.com, first name is J, last name is Mane. So here first name we are creating as a Jay Kumar, updating as Jay Kumar, email ID is jaykumar@gmail.com, city will be Mumbai, right? So everything is set, localhost 800 employee/2. Okay, send. Yeah, so 200. Okay, successful, and it is returning us the employee object which is updated. So this is the employee object which is ID2, and these are the things which are updated to the database. Now let's check. So these are the previous things. Now use database employee DB and select star from the employee, and we will execute this query, and you can see the city is updated, right? Okay, and now we will use the same thing using a query parameter, right? So go to the Postman again, and this time this is the class level path like employee/employee, so it will remain as it is. Then update query /update query. So instead of ID, here will be update query, and now we are not sending any variable as a path variable. It's a query parameter. So question mark and 2. Now again I will update Jay Kumar as Jay, or I will make it as Janak. Surname will be Mane, and email ID will be janak@gmail.com, and city will be Pune again, right? So let's send it and let's check. So bad request, what happened? Let update by query. Let's check what is the exception. Sorry, let me clear these things. So employee/update query, request parameter ID, sorry, not question mark 2 here. See, when you are passing a query parameter, there will be a key value pair like we see in the map. So ID is a key value we have to pass. So question mark ID is equal to 2. In this way we have to pass. So it is saying a bad request, right? So send. So now it's 200. Okay, and it's updated, right? Janak, we can check the database. It's a Bangalore Jay Kumar. Now execute query, and here we say Pune janak@gmail.com, Janak Mane, right? So in this way we have successfully implemented a project with CRUD operations like insert, update, delete, get, find, all the things we have done successfully, right? So let me once summarize all these things. So first of all we have created, let me close all the files. Okay, so first of all we have created one Spring project. We have added dependencies like JPA repositories, that is Spring JPA, then we have added MySQL, then we have added a Spring Web, right? These 3 dependencies are important. And in this SRC Java we have created different packages. That is, this is the base package, this is controller package, entity package, repo package, and service package. These packages we have created. First of all we have created entity, employee entity. So we have created this employee table with first name, last name, ID, city. We have created a constructor, parameters constructor, and getter setters. What is the importance of these getter setters? You know, you have checked this at the time of update, right? And this is the parameters, this is the default constructor that is needed for JPA. This is mandatory, right? So this is the employee entity. Then once employee entity has created, we have created a repository, employee repository. So we have created an interface which extends JPA repository. It extends JPA repository. That's why there is no need to add repository annotation over here. It gets two arguments. That is, one is type of entity, that is employee, and type of your ID, that is log. That's all. And then we have created a service class, employee service. Here we have passed this dependency, that is employee repo dependency. See, previously what we have to do, we have to extend or implement that particular interface. If we are not using this Spring, then employee service we have to use implements and all that things. That will be tightly coupled thing. But Spring is a loosely coupled. That's why we don't want to implement that interface. Sorry. Dynamically, we are injecting this employee repository dependency from XML file. So even we don't have to create a manual XML. SpringBoot will take care of injecting all that things using auto-query. Here we are using a constructor dependency. So if constructor dependency is mandatory in Spring, so that's why this dependency is mandatory. Without this dependency we cannot perform any operation. That's why we have used parameterized constructor. And in Spring Advanced, means these versions, if we are having only one constructor, then there is no need to use @AutoWired annotation. Here there is no need to use @AutoWired annotation, right? Even if we will remove this constructor, then also it will work with the help of @AutoWired annotation. But as we have a constructor over here and only one constructor in this class, there is no need to use @AutoWired annotation, right? And then we have created a methods like save employee, find by ID, find all, delete by ID, update employee, all that things, right? So this is our service. And then we have created a controller class. In this controller we have injected again the employee service instance, and again there is no need to use @AutoWired annotation, as there is only one parameterized constructor and SpringBoot will take care of that. Even if you will remove this constructor and use @AutoWired annotation on the top of this employee service, it will be okay, right? Both will work. And we have used this post mapping, get mapping, delete mapping, put mapping. All the methods we have covered, right? So that's all, my friends. Thank you very much for watching the videos. If you have any doubt, you can comment it out. And I'm thinking in the next video, what I will do, I will create one exception class. In case if exception occurs, it will be handled by that exception class. So here we will create one new package exception, and we will write one exception class over there. We will extend that class using runtime exception class in Java, and we will handle the exceptions, right? So thank you very much.